If you can cast on using the knitted cast on, you can definitely knit. In fact, I think the knitted stitch is easier than casting on. You're going to see that the first three of the 4 steps are the same as casting on. So I'm doing them sort of quickly, but let me break it down. You go to the left and under the first stitch closest to the tip of your left needle. You wrap the yarn around that bottom needle. You drag the right needle back up and catch that new stitch, but this time we're taking the old stitch on the left needle off completely. So under, around, back to the top and off. Under, around, back to the top and off. And you'll see that I use my thumb to hold this in place. You're going to find what works best for you. I learned how to crochet before I learned how to knit, and so you'll see that my left finger holds the yarn and sort of acts as a tension guide. But if you find that you prefer holding that yarn in your right hand, that's absolutely fine too. I want you to practice, especially as you're a beginner, and see what works best for you. So in the pattern, in the Learn to Knit scarf pattern, I am having you do what's called garter stitch. And garter stitch is just another name, a code, if you will, for knitting every stitch, knitting every row. So there's your first row. Now I've knitted millions of stitches, right? And I would say that that doesn't look like the neatest, most even row. So don't judge your knitting yet. We're still learning. We're just getting started. So definitely this is about process and not the product. And I'm going to show you how to block your work so that any of these imperfections, or I should say irregularities, will be nice and smooth at the end. So what I did there was I just changed hands so that now all the stitches are on the left needle again, and I'm adding them to the newly empty right needle. And when you're making a knit stitch, what you're doing is you're pushing a bump to the back of the work. So now that this is the second row, you can see the bumps from the last row that were pushed to the back. They're showing up on this side of the work. The nice thing about garter stitch is that it is the same on the front and the back of the work, so you don't have to worry about which side of the knitting you're working on because they'll look the same. So then when you have done 2 rows of knitting, you've created 1 ridge, and in garter stitch that's called a garter ridge. Not anything you have to memorize, but I just wanted you to know. So on the front here we have a nice row of bumps, and on the back we have a nice row of bumps. And then here's what it looks like when you do all the garter ridges. Obviously this is a different color. This is our Nebula colorway. What I love about this yarn is that it makes stripes for you. But you can see each of these ridges equals 2 rows of knitting. Nice and smooth.